Yo, welcome back to the channel, boys and girls. In today's video, we are doing an update on my Elite Wheels Drive number 2 and the 65D variant. This has actually been a highly requested follow-up video that you guys, the viewers out there, have asked me for. So in this video, I want to just talk about my experience with these wheels over the summer, give you some of the pros and cons, and why these should not be your only set of wheels for your everyday riding. Huge shout out to Elite Wheels for sending me out the set of wheels. And by the time this video drops, Elite Wheels should be having their 10-year anniversary sale, where if you use my code, you'll receive an additional savings on top of whatever my standard discount is. So without further ado, let's begin. As I mentioned in the intro of this video, guys, this is an update video on the Elite Wheels Drive 65D versions, the version 2. And as you guys can see, I currently have them on my Tavello Aero. This Tavello Aero has been my crib bike for this summer of 2025. It's been fantastic. It's stiff, it's sprightly, it corners very well. And since I've been using these wheels on a variety of other road frames, I wanted to see what these wheels felt like on this Tavello Aero. So let's first talk about some of the specs. So these being the update of the 65D original set of Elite Wheels Drive wheels, we have 65 millimeters in depth, both front and rear. We have an internal width of 23 millimeters. External width on these is 31 millimeters, which stretches out these Continental GP5000s and the 28C tubeless variant to around 30 millimeters at the rim. We have 4.5 millimeter wide aero carbon spokes, and then the drive, or I should say the hub on here, is Elite's own, I believe it's like a conical style. It's not necessarily the standard DT Swiss ratchet design. It's kind of Elite Wheels, their own sort of special drive system. And then of course we have ceramic bearings. The price point on these Elite Drive version 2 65D wheels comes in retail at $1,299 USD, and that is before my promo code. And like I said earlier, with my promo code with Elite Wheels 10-year anniversary sale, that code should give you more off than my standard discount. And then the weight on these for the 65D version in this current spec comes in at around 1,483 grams for the pair. That's a pretty competitive weight considering these are very deep dish at 65 millimeters depth, both front and rear. We are out here in beautiful downtown Chicago. The weather, guys, is mwah, chef's kiss. It's about 62 degrees in Freedom units, and the humidity is like 35%. I got some long sleeve underneath my pas normal, my penis jersey, but nonetheless the weather is perfect. Fantastic for a zone 2 ride, and of course a fantastic day to give you guys an update on these wheels. And we're down here in Navy Pier. Moving on to the cons of these 65 millimeter deep wheels, there are really only two main cons that I can think of. Number one is the weight of these, and then number two is how these wheels interact in both the crosswinds and just winds in general. At 1,483 grams, these aren't exactly the lightest set of wheels that I have ever featured on this channel. And on this point on this channel, I'm now starting to feature wheels that are coming in like under 1,300 grams, 1,200 grams for example. So if you are someone where you find yourself doing a lot of climbing out of the saddle, perhaps you live somewhere where it's really hilly, or if you are doing these fast bunch rides or crit races where you are constantly surging out of the corner, then these wheels are not going to be for those applications just because of the weight on them. You can definitely feel the weight on these when you are putting the pedal to the metal, and I know that is because I've been using these wheels in those various applications. So if this is someone that relates to you, then I would say go with one of the more shallower depth wheels that Elite has to offer, because they'll be a little bit more easier to accelerate and they'll be a little bit lighter. The next con I want to talk about has to do with crosswind stability and how these wheels interact within the wind. So surprisingly, these actually are very, very stable in the crosswinds. They're exceptionally stable in the crosswind. However, there's no denying that, especially when you get up to speed and you have particularly a direct crosswind, it does feel like you are fighting against the cockpit and the wheels to keep your bike in motion. It doesn't mean that there are any sort of speed wobbles or it feels like you're going to be flown off your bike. It's not the case at all, but you definitely can feel that you're having to just basically have a little bit of extra control in your arms to keep the bike propelling forward. So again, if you live somewhere with a lot of crosswinds, then these are not going to be the wheels for you. But again, nonetheless, they are very stable. You just will find yourself fighting a lot in the direct crosswinds. Now moving on, let's talk about some of the pros of these wheels, because this is where it starts to get interesting. Now for whatever reason, and I don't know what sort of magic sauce Elite Wheels is using, but these are some of the most smoothest wheels that I have ever featured on this channel. It's really hard to describe. Whether you're freewheeling, whether you're up to speed, whether you're out of the saddle, going over rough pavement, wherever you're at, these wheels are just incredibly smooth. Perhaps it's the ceramic bearings, maybe it's the hub design, I don't know. But I've also ran these wheels as well as a variety of other wheels ran tubeless. So I know it's not just because that they're ran tubeless, because they're only 28s. I'm not using 30C tubeless tires, but they are just some of the most smoothest wheels I have ever featured on this channel. And so if you get a chance to check out these wheels, certainly you will appreciate how smooth these wheels are. The second pro to these wheels is just the speed. Now, like I said in the cons, when you are in a direct crosswind, you will have to put down a little bit of extra watts just to match the speed of, say, maybe a different set of wheels that are maybe like 45 or 50 mil in depth. But if you are in a tailwind, or if you are in a scenario where you just have little to no wind, these wheels are very fast. You have to imagine at 65 millimeters in depth that they're gonna be fast, and these are very fast. So imagine yourselves like in a tailwind with a set of wheels that are super deep at 65 mil that are also incredibly smooth. Mwah. These feels just like a freaking Mercedes big body Benz on the Autobahn. They're super fast and they're incredibly smooth. So at $1,299 USD before my promo code, I would say that these Elite Wheels Drive 65D 2 wheels offer a really good value as well as a balance of fantastic performance. You got to figure at this point, Elite Wheels, they've been around for 10 years now. They also sponsor a variety of pro teams all across the world. And they've also been really sensitive about increasing the price on the wheels. Some of the other brands on the market today, the more major or mainstream Chinese brands, they've been basically jacking up the price on the wheels every single year to the point that they become a very difficult sell. But for Elite Wheels, they are a proven brand. They have really good support as far as what I've heard from consumers on the market, and they just do a really good job overall with just how they package their wheels. So I would definitely recommend these wheels to anyone that's looking for a fast set of wheels. However, I do want to talk about why these should not be your only set of everyday road wheels. The reality is, for most consumers that follow my channel, 65 millimeter deep wheels for a day-to-day basis is just going to be both too deep and just slightly too heavy for most of us out there. Unless you're somewhere where it's very, very flat and you have minimal winds and you're not constantly surging out of, the saddle or every corner, anything outside of that, I think after a while, this particular depth is going to wane on most consumers. For a day like today, where we have pretty calm winds, it's flat, and I'm doing just a steady eddy zone 2 effort, these are fine. Maybe you're someone where you're going to be doing like 100-mile or even just like a 100-kilometer ride where you're not going to be doing too much acceleration. You're just going to be staying at that prescribed speed for the majority of the time. These will be just fine. Maybe if you're in a road race application where there's minimal climbing, and again, you're just going to be sitting at 26, 27 miles an hour, these will probably work for that well. Or if you're someone who's a little bit on the more heavier side of a rider, these are definitely not for someone, in my opinion, anyone who weighs less than 75 kilograms. I think if you are someone that is on the lighter side, these could be a second or third set of wheels, but these just don't make a lot of sense for an everyday set of wheels. So my recommendation is have these be your second or third, and then check out some of the more shallow depth wheels that Elite Wheels has to offer. And then the final thing I want to talk about just has to do with brand cachet versus going with some of the more OEM alternative of wheels. Now at this point, I've been making videos for over 5 years, and I have gone through a variety of different wheels. Particularly more recently has been some of the OEM alternatives, something like XM Carbon Speed, which offers a fantastic value. However, locally here in Chicago, there just are not a lot of athletes that are willing to take the plunge with some of the more OEM alternatives. They would rather go with a proven brand, a brand that has been around for a long time, a brand that people recognize, something like these Elite Wheels maybe like a Wind Space or like a Far Sports, it's just easy for them to trust those particular Chinese brands. So whenever people ask me, you know, which brand they should go with, the reality is, even if I were to give them the most absolute value set of wheels, at the end of the day, there still is a barrier when it comes to trust, warranty, and just whether or not they're going to be breaking their neck going with a set of Chinese wheels. And so that's where something like an Elite Wheels comes into play. Yes, these are a little bit more pricey than some of the OEM alternatives, but Elite Wheels has the brand cachet. They're proven and they've been used by riders across the globe. So that is going to wrap up today's video, guys. Once again, the main takeaways on these wheels is they are incredibly smooth. They're crazy fast, not so great in the crosswinds, but overall they are a fantastic set of second or third set of wheels for most riders on the market. Huge thank you again to Elite Wheels for sending me out these Elite Wheels Drive 65D version 2 wheels. Questions, comments, and concerns, please feel free to leave them down below, and I'm gonna check you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.